I'm so excited. I'm back for a brand new episode of Breeze Breakdown. I'm so excited because I have the one and only Angelique. She's a professionally trained and accomplished dancer, and she's the founder of On Pointe BTQ. And I'm so excited to have her on because, as many young girls, I was a young dancer. I danced for a minute there, not professionally, of course, but I really loved it. It was like, I feel like that's the thing that a lot of like young girls and boys do.
Yeah.
And I never really saw myself professionally until I saw like I want to say Misty Copeland was
Yes.
like the first experience with that, or like black ballerinas in cartoons. I never really like saw myself. So when I got the opportunity to chat with her, I was like, oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a bit about who you are? Introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, so I'm Angelique Laurin Smith-Wood. I am a DMV native. I currently reside in New York, been here over 10 years. I am a dancer, I am a full-time model, and most recently an entrepreneur with On Pointe Boutique. It's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride.
I love that. What part of I'm kind of from Virginia. What part of the DMV are you from?
Maryland. So I'm like 10 minutes outside of DC. I'm in PG County.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. That's
hmm
County. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
How long were you there until you moved into New York?
So I first came to New York when I was still in high school. I attended a Dance Theater Harlem residency, probably when I was like 14. So I was like very young. And when I got here, I was staying with a host family
Oh
that
wow.
Dance Theater of Harlem offered to students who wanted to be here over the summer that were out of state. And I lived on Convent Avenue in a brownstone,
Oh,
and they had a West Indian caretaker. I was just getting like really immersed in what New York and Harlem was, and I knew at that point I wanted to be here. And so I
oh,
moved to New York right after I graduated from high school, and I
oh
went
my
to
God.
I went to school here.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
so I presume you went to performing arts school, correct?
I I did. I did.
What
I
was that like?
I went to Marymount Manhattan College. I auditioned to be in their dance program, their BFA program, and I did not get in.
Okay.
Um, and that was fine. I was already accepted academically, so I
Mhm.
took a comm arts and a photo minor. I did not re-audition. I actually took intro to dance as an elective my first year, and the teacher was like, "Why aren't you in a dance program?" And I was like, I
I
don't
was
know. You tell me. I auditioned. But it was actually it was a gift. It was a blessing because I got to just expand my experience into the other things that I loved. And I still, you know, the gift of New York City is that you can always dance.
yeah.
So I went academically. I was still dancing within the studios in the city. And yeah, I graduated top of my class. And yeah, here we are.
I love that for you.
hmm
When you like were young and you were dancing, what were like your aspirations? Like what did a dance career look like for you?
Yeah, I cared about academics a lot, so I did want to go to college to get a dance major, and I always wanted to have other skills, but dancing professionally to me meant traveling internationally with a dance company performing,
Mhm.
but also developing other interests, right? Because I knew dance wouldn't be a long-term thing. But yeah, I thought I'd be on Broadway. I thought, I would be traveling all over with the dance company for as long as I could, and also like teaching and just immersing myself in all things dance, whether it's the business side or performing.
Yeah. And what does like the business side of dance look like? I feel like I very rarely hear that, even from my friends who are like MTs or like actresses, and like I'm like I feel like very rarely do people talk about the business. So what did the business of dance look like to you?
To me, it just looked like, I don't know, starting a school or like starting a scholarship program or having mentorship programs or developing a dancewear brand or selling dancewear. all kinds of things, being a choreographer, an artistic director, a ballet master, a company manager. There's so many ways to get involved on the other side of the stage that still keep you in the arts, and still
Yeah.
keep you very much like a part of this like thing that we're so passionate about.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
can you tell me a bit about how you got into modeling? Because I assume probably it started at the same time, but I don't know.
Yeah, so my journey is wild. I didn't get into modeling until after I joined the Brooklyn Ballet. Um, I went to the Brooklyn Ballet in 2016. It was right after I quit my job.
Oh,
And I just went to class. I just wanted to take a class. And I walked in and I met the instructor, who's now a dear friend of mine, Richard Glover.
sweet.
And he just encouraged me to keep coming. And over a course of several weeks, I was invited to audition for the Brooklyn Nutcracker. And it was at that point I joined the Brooklyn Ballet, and I was there for 6 seasons. At
Oh,
that time, that same instructor said, "You probably should get an agent. I think you would do really well in modeling." And I sought out a few agencies. I knocked on several doors, and I finally got signed in 2017. And that's how I started modeling, and I've been modeling ever since.
do you feel like in some ways, I when I think of modeling, I think of travel. So, do you feel like in some ways you kind of fulfilled the things that like you may not have been fulfilled by with dance from modeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think the point in me getting into modeling was to bring movement to fashion and to bring dance to fashion. I think it's very important, I feel, for brands to really use real dancers. And
Mm-hmm.
so at first it was like my little party trick, right? It was like my little thing that I would bring on set, and photographers would be like, "Do you know how to move?" And I would just be like, "Yeah." And it
Yeah.
was an advantage that I had because they didn't have to direct me, right? I kind of knew how to flow, how to create lines and shapes with my body. And in that, you would build this reputation where you become a dependable model, which would then send you into other spaces, which would then let you travel. And then you'd be, you know what I mean? So it was all connected. And it's just great to just have the fusion and the merge of those two worlds.
Yeah, and I like when I think of she's not really a model, but I would call her a model, Zendaya.
Oh,
Whenever
yeah.
I look at her like behind right? When I look at her behind the scenes of like very recently for Vogue, I feel like there's like a dance, there's a movement to the
Yeah.
things she does, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she has the grace of a
Hmm.
dance, like specifically a ballerina, but she has the grace of a dancer. And so and I feel like you can tell, especially with a lot of like higher paid supermodels, I feel like you can tell just like
Yeah.
that it
There's,
comes very natural, I think.
yeah, it's definitely organic to move fluidly. You also kind of have to understand what you're doing. You have to understand the garment. You have to understand what the client wants. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all these different levels of understanding. And like, when you get it, you get it. And it's just so rewarding. And like, Zendaya is a great example. She's very elegant. She's
Mm-hmm.
so graceful and she gets it. The girls that
Yeah.
get it. And the girls
Get
that don't,
it?
don't.
Which is so funny because she's not, but yeah, she comes from a dance background. That's
Hmm.
wild to think of.
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about like your experience at the
Hmm.
Brooklyn Ballet. Can
Yeah.
you walk me through like what it was like a typical day for you, like from start to finish, like from morning routine to like when you lay your head on your pillow at night? What was that like?
Yeah, so the Brooklyn Ballet was not your traditional company, dance company. It definitely defied all of those norms. So we only rehearsed like 3 days a week. We
Oh,
would start with company class, which was like an hour and a half of us, doing our typical warm up, bar, central floor, and then we would move into more of the choreography or whatever piece we were working on at the time for another additional like 2.5, 3 hours, maybe 4 hours, depending on how close we were to performance. So yeah, I was there Monday, Wednesday, Friday. In between that, I would definitely take other classes to build my stamina or to increase my flexibility or to work on core engagement, those type of things. So it definitely created the schedule created the space to do more things, to set you up to succeed essentially in the studio. So yeah, obviously breakfast, obviously, eating, what you needed to do to maintain that long day.
Mhm.
And at the time I was also working part-time at a yoga
Yeah.
studio. So I would leave there, go work, and then possibly take another yoga class to just like, you know,
Yeah.
rest and like shavasana and get those things out of my body. But yeah, it was really fun because the Brooklyn Ballet was very diverse, right? They were they incorporated so many different ways of checking off a diversity box.
Mhm.
Yes, we were very different ethnically. We come from different backgrounds, but we also incorporated other ways and other genres of dance. We would create works in collaboration with some neighborhood hip hop
Yeah.
artists. We would also just do our standard ballet, Nutcracker, Balanchine works. And then we would also have workshops that were like Merce Cunningham and Isadora Duncan, which are modern dance forms. So it was so rewarding, and creatively, it expanded me. Like creatively, like I was just really inspired, and I got to do things that I probably wouldn't have imagined, especially coming from my journey. Like my trajectory into a professional career is not a linear one.
Mhm.
I trained all of my life
Mhm.
up until high school, and then I did not get into a dance program, but still, you know, Brooklyn Ballet met me where I was,
Yeah.
and I worked really hard to like present, and be at a professional level.
Mhm.
But they just received me, and they endorse this type of just creativity and inspiration that we all kind of brought to the table. And it was really fun. And some of my closest friends I met there. And we all come from different spaces and journeys and paths. And I transitioned out of the Brooklyn Ballet at top of like 2020.
Mhm.
I wanted to dive into more of a commercial space. And I got the opportunity to audition for a job with an Italian shoe
Oh,
brand
cool.
and Parsons Dance. And they created this commercial, and I booked it, and I had all this great momentum. So that was really exciting. But, of course, COVID happened
Mhm.
and the world shut down.
Yeah.
And then right as we started to pick back up again, modeling pretty much took over.
Mhm.
But as I said before, I always brought movement to the spaces I was in. I always said, I'm a dancer first, and I always lead with that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Like you fell into it. I love that. Can you tell me a bit about like what a typical day in modeling looks like? But I feel like also if it's like a typical week, is that if that's a better question, you can answer that as well.
Yeah, for me, it definitely depends on the day. Definitely depends on the season. Some seasons are very busy, and some are very quiet. But there could be, a go see. You would have to maybe film a self tape at home for an audition that your agent has for you, and that you would just do at home. Or a day that you actually have a booking, you would wake up. Typically for me, I wear my hair curly for modeling shoots, so I would come prepared with my hair curly,
Mhm.
and then go to set. You would be on set for a typical 8 hours if it's a full day booking. And on set, makeup, hair, all the things, wardrobe, you shoot, and whatever you're shooting could take up, all day or maybe half a day.
Mhm.
But it's so fun. It's fun. It's glamorous. It's also work,
Yeah.
right? Because you want to make sure that the client is pleased.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're delivering a product that they can use. And I think it's important to remain mindful of that. It's not necessarily about you; it's about what they're selling.
Mhm.
But you also want to commit to keeping a reputation where you're reliable, you listen,
Mhm.
all those things you present and you represent your agency accordingly. All those things are really important. So, modeling is definitely kind of all over the place. And you can be up and gone very last minute, or there's a lot of rush to wait, or there's a lot of waiting around. But I find it to be important to always, stay
Mm-hmm.
busy, but also like honor like my time down and like be okay with like taking a
Yeah.
beat.
What do you feel like has been the one thing modeling has taught you that you least expected?
Oh wow, that's never too late. I didn't get into modeling until much later, and there's a place for you if you work hard
Yeah.
enough. And I think modeling is expanded itself. And I think when you see that and you have the discernment to see that, you can walk into it and take full advantage
I
of
love,
it, and just be unapologetically you. And there's definitely space for
I
you.
love that. And for you, with the agency you're at, like, what has that experience been like? Because like I said, I have some friends in like entertainment on the like acting side of things, and they've had so many different types of experiences. Can you tell me a bit about what that was like how you knew your agency was the one that made the most sense for you, and like how you feel supported in that way?
Yeah, I actually showed up to an open call 3 times for my agency, and I just stayed at it, and I was signed after my third try. I didn't have to change, I didn't have to conform to a specific image, a size, like they just saw something
Mm-hmm.
in me, and considered me for everything, right? They didn't pigeonhole me into one
Mm-hmm.
lane, and they offered me experiences that I think I just wasn't expecting,
Mm-hmm.
right? They saw me as a dancer, but they also saw that I could do all these other things because of my look, right? And they didn't just put me in one area. And there's so many things I've done I can't even count, but thankfully for them, they didn't like put me in a corner,
I love that. And how do you feel like,
Mm-hmm.
since they haven't put you in a corner, how do you feel like your world like has expanded for the future of yourself? Because obviously before you saw yourself as a dancer, and now you see yourself as a model, and now from being in the agency that doesn't put you in a box, they see you as so much more. How do you feel like your view of yourself has expanded from that experience?
It's definitely built
Mm-hmm.
confidence. It's definitely been like, okay, if this job is not for me, then another one will be. I don't get easily like let down or discouraged because one job says no, because another job will say yes, right? It's just about finding like
Mm-hmm.
your thing, and being okay with it not being your thing. And there's just a level of acceptance that I've grown in by being with my agency, experiencing the jobs that I've experienced, and all the no's that I've gotten. And it's just like, what's for you will be for
Mm-hmm.
you.
And speaking of what's for you, what will be for you, I want to talk a bit about the opening of On Point Boutique. I'm really excited. So tell
Yes.
me about like the journey to like wanting to build your own brand, because that's major. That's huge.
Yeah, so On Point Boutique was originally an idea I had in
Mhm.
2017. I had been dancing professionally at that time for like a year, but I also had this vast amount of experience just as a youngin, training
Mhm.
rigorously, and in that having to invest in my dance attire on a consistent
Yes.
basis. And
No, I just think of the girls who like, I watch a lot of ballerinas who like
yeah,
either have to change the color of things or like really like break their shoes apart for it to make sense.
yeah, yeah, there's so many steps in just being prepared, right? Just to go to class, let alone the
Yes.
stage, right? And quite often, and this is like no embellishment, but quite often I would walk into a dance store, dance shop, dance boutique, whatever, and just feel like an
Mm-hmm.
outsider. To paint a picture for you, maybe there was like 3 shades of brown for
Mm-hmm.
tights. And yes, I can buy my ballet shoes, but then leaving there, I would have to go to a convenience store, buy my foundation to then dye my shoes to match my
Mm-hmm.
skin. And even as a professional, there are standout moments that I remember just trying to buy point shoes in a space where I just wasn't received, right? So there's just this overwhelming sense of struggle in seeing myself in this
Mm-hmm.
art form. And that's just with
Yeah.
clothing, right? We're not even going to get into like once you're in the dance world, right? It just comes just first with clothing. So I just started plotting this idea. I just wanted to create a space for the Black and Brown dance community where we felt
Mm-hmm.
seen, acknowledged, celebrated. And a big part of that is like my background in the fashion industry. I was a account executive at a accessory
Mm-hmm.
showroom, and there I would sell our brand to small boutiques that targeted their audience, right? And On Point Boutique is not a brand. It is a
Mm-hmm.
boutique that will sell brands that target our audience,
Yeah.
right? Because to be clear, dancewear brands are moving in more an inclusive direction, right? We just want them in one space. We don't want them tucked away in dark corners in the back of stores. We want them showcased. We want them profiled. So we want to be thoughtful in carrying things that I say we, it's
No,
me,
but it's gonna grow to we,
but it's gonna grow to we.
That's the goal, right? The
But
goal is
where,
expanding and probably
yeah, the goal
yes.
is
No,
expanding,
you're
yeah.
using the right words.
But yeah, we want to be thoughtful in just housing things and offering things that enhance,
Mm-hmm.
match, complement our skin complexion while also being stylish and on trend. Like there has to be some type of way to incorporate a luxury experience for
Mm-hmm.
brown dancers that hasn't been offered to us yet. And so I'm just excited about the impact of it, and how it can really broaden the dancewear
Mm-hmm.
scope, right? Yes, we can move in a more inclusive direction, but there's a way to be thoughtful in it where we're just considered, and also more importantly for me, it's about fueling
Mm-hmm.
confidence. It starts when you go to the store and you buy your tights and they're perfect. And then you're excited to go into the studio because you're seamless and you're put together and you're on point, like it all works
Yeah.
together. And, yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's been a
Yeah.
long road. It's been a long road, and I'm just really excited
That's
about it.
absolutely phenomenal. I just think of myself when I was like a young dancer, obviously not professionally like you, but I felt like when I think about like competitions and stuff we did, like I like my pink tights were like they were pink, and obviously my skin tone is not pink, right? Or like my shoes were pink, or like
Mm-hmm.
with the makeup it has to be like it had to be this bright red, and like not all red goes for and I think I
Yeah.
just remember those moments, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of all the young dancers that are going to appreciate what you're doing. Can you speak a bit about what like the skews are going to look like? Is it going to be shoes? Is it going to be um tights? Is it going to be leotards? Is it going to be like, I know when at least when I was dancing, buns were super important. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
the skews or apparel, like what is your ideal?
So to start off, it'll just be a collection of leotards, tights,
Mm-hmm.
skirts, some warm ups, leg warmers, leggings. I'm looking at the rack right now. Like unitards, bike tards, stuff like that. I do want to get
Mm-hmm.
into shoes. Right now, I'm in the process of applying for grants so that I can have a little bit more capital for that because it does require
Yeah.
deep pockets
Mm-hmm.
for shoes. And I want to do it right, right? I want to do it where everyone feels seen, and I don't want to kind of piecemeal that portion
Mm-hmm.
of the business. So now it's just to get a glimpse into like what a space can look like when there's a
Mm-hmm.
belonging, right, and a sense of welcoming at
Yeah.
the forefront. And so I want to do that. I want to start small, and build on top of that. And yeah, it's, I guess down the line, I would want my own like On Point boutique capsule collection that
Mhm.
I design. But I think right now it's important for these brands that are moving into like a more inclusive space to be all housed under
Yeah.
one umbrella so that somebody like you and I can walk in and be like, okay, everything here
Yeah.
I can have, instead of being like, where's my
Hmm.
corner where I need to shop?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I
that's the
love that.
goal.
As I learn more about like the black business space and what that looks like, I love like a 13 Loon, or I am watching this investing show on Roku. It's a whole thing, but it's with Emma Grede and Ashley Graham, and there's like this store that is specifically for black owned brands, or like brands that cater to the black and brown community. And I love the idea of doing that, because a lot of the times when people say like women owned or people of color owned, it's like it's not necessarily for us, you know? So I love that you're doing it. I think that's so
Yeah.
fascinating. What I am super curious, as like I said, like I learn more about the space of that, like business and things of that nature. What have you learned about like getting capital, or like having potential investors, grants? Like what have you learned about like the money portion of things? Because I think that's super interesting.
Yeah. I'm actually learning as I go. um, but there's money
Hmm.
for us. There's money for us. You just really have to cast your net and you really have to put yourself
Hmm.
out there, and just do your research. I haven't gotten much into
Hmm.
investors yet. Again, this is like something I really dove in at the top of 2024 while it was an idea in
Yeah.
2017. From that point, I just kind of saved
Yeah.
my own capital. But I've applied for a few grants. All of them are they're very thoughtful in who they reward to, and I think there's ample amount of funding out there. You just really have to reach
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, and do your
I love
research.
that. So I know I've been on the website and everything for like down the road. Like let's
Mm-hmm.
go like 30 years from now. What does on point boutique look like? I know you said you wanted to create a capsule collection. Do you see like actual brick and
Mm-hmm.
mortar stores? Do you see it like being having a global
Mm-hmm.
presence? What does on point boutique look like for you 30 years from now?
I definitely see brick and mortar franchise
Hmm.
potential here. I see us kind of being the direct source for black dance schools like the Alvin Ailey American
Hmm.
Dance Theater, Dance Theater of Harlem, be it the school and the academic programs, all the way up into the
Yeah.
professional companies, just being a direct resource for them. Yeah, I see it being a nationwide situation, and I'm really not going to put any barriers on it. I'm just going to let it grow into the spaces that it
Hmm.
wants to be, and just be available for that, and just say I'm just going to continue
Yeah.
to say yes. To say yes to On Point Boutique because it feels like it's just
Hmm.
rewarding me and just really bringing my dream to fruition in a way that just caters to our community, and that's just really
I
important to
love
me.
that. I love like learning about like what the business plan and like the ideas like down the line, because obviously you know now what you want to do,
Yeah,
right? And like to see like
yeah.
obviously you're looking at the SKUs, you're like I'm raising capital, like this is what I want to do. So like to see like when you get all of those
Mm-hmm.
things, what like those goals achieved look like. I love hearing about that. So I'm very
Mm-hmm.
fascinated in that. Um, I really appreciate you like breaking all of this down for me, for us, the community that'll be listening.
Yeah.
From like life as a dancer, as a model, now business owner, what do you feel like is your biggest
Mm-hmm.
piece of advice that you would give to young girls, specifically late teens, early 20s?
Yeah, I think there's like three things that come to mind that I think I live by. And that's just to be a student always, to remain curious, never become satisfied, right? Always ask questions, remain curious. And then the other thing is to not be afraid to stand out. Like your uniqueness is your superpower. and I empathize with dancers greatly, right? I know what it's like to be in spaces where there's a variant of people, ages and stages, skills, technical abilities. And it's so easy to get in your head and cower back. But to be fearless in who you are and know your truth and know, like, okay, here I am. I'm going to present what I have and I'm unique and I'm great. That puts you like forward, right? To never be afraid to stand out. And then lastly, find
Yeah.
mentorship. I think find mentorship. If I had a mentor, I do think my journey would have been a little different. However, I'm grateful for my journey and the way that it's paved out. But I do think when you have someone around you that sees your potential, has kind of been in the spaces that you
Yeah.
want to be, having that guidance is so essential, and it's so like it's like a
Yeah.
superpower. Um, and to not try to do things on
Mhm.
your own, but to seek out mentorship
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
usually one of the questions I ask people, but I find that mentorship is it's really hard to come by too. Like, do you feel like
Mm-hmm.
there was ever a point where you finally found a mentor? Or like sometimes I tell people like sometimes a mentor can be someone you've never even met. Like like the person who like as I
Mm-hmm.
learn about business and investing, I've never even met the person who like is like my biggest mentor in it. So have you found a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
or do you like have like mentors in your head who you feel like you kind of live by and like look to?
Yeah, I think when I walked into Brooklyn Ballet, my instructor, Richard Glover, who's now my dear friend, just became a good sounding
Mm-hmm.
board for me. Shout out to Richard. I love you. Um, I do think that I see him as a mentor because he saw
Mm-hmm.
something in me. And so, like, I took advantage of his knowledge. I took advantage of all that he saw in me, and I just was just very receptive to the direction that he
Yeah.
would give me, and also times when he would push me into very uncomfortable spaces where I didn't feel as confident. And so he stands out the most to me. I know if I called him right now, he'd be like, "Whatever you need." But yeah, Richard Glover, and I think at a distance, always Misty Copeland. People who are just after creating just spaces that are just not there, like Elaine
Mm-hmm.
Welteroth, Tracy Ellis Ross. They're very women empowering people, and they may not be in the dance industry, but what they're doing aligns with the theme of what I'm doing. So I look at them and the models that they
Yeah.
are, and everything that
Yeah,
I'm
it's very
building.
much it's not something they just do just to do. It's in them. Like I love Pattern Beauty's
Mm-hmm.
marketing. It feels like a company that for Black
Mm-hmm.
people by Black people. And what I love, Elaine just
Mm-hmm.
announced like her like I think it's like an incubator for like Black birthing doulas, and she's all of the
Mm-hmm. Birth
yeah, and
fund.
I'm like
Yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. And she's gotten so many like as you can tell, I'm into like investing right now, but like so many
Yeah.
investors who
Yeah.
are like willing to like women of color
Mm-hmm.
and Ashley Graham, but like so many people like helping with
Yes.
that space. So I definitely agree. Those are some phenomenal people, and I love
Yes.
that. I
Yes.
wanted to say thank you
Yeah.
again for coming on. Where can
Oh,
the people
thank
find
you.
you, and do you like want to tell us like when On Point Boutique is launching, or is this?
Yeah, so you can follow me on IG,
Mhm.
Angelique.Laurin, Laurin, and also at On Point Boutique BTQ. I just announced today that the pop up will be May 4th and 5th in Brooklyn, New York. And as things get closer to that time, I'll definitely announce all of the details. Would love to meet dancers. Would love to see everyone there. Even if you're not a dancer, I don't mind. Um, and yeah, just like stay tuned for all the things as they
I'm so
happen.
excited. Thank you so much again. And I know everyone's going to appreciate
Yeah,
this.
Bree. Yeah, for sure.